The Utah Mammoth is sorta proud to present NashCast.
What the is a NashCast?
NashCast, the only hockey show on the planet. Hosted by a human speed bag, fourth line wannabe, healthy scratch, schnozzy moto, Tyson Nash.
Who the hell is Tyson Nash?
Never heard of him.
And the baritone with a brain, the velvet hammer, Mr. Silky, Tono Suave, the radio voice of your Utah Mammoth,
Code Blue!
Mike Folta.
Oh, Captain, my Captain!
NashCast begins now.
Ready for takeoff.
Here's Tyler Ganoush and Mickey Foghorn. Wait, what? Oh, here's Tyson Nash and Mike Folta.
Feeling good, folks. Holy, what a W. We're taping this the day after the LA Kings game. What a battle. The excitement, the buildup of the game, folks. An absolute barn burner that went to overtime. I think you talked about it, giving up 3 different leads in that game. The effort by Nick Schmaltz, how insane was that? Karavalmelka, clearly, he was in his zone. I mean, he made some big stops there as well at moments. Then there were some shaky moments as well, but that's all part of the National Hockey League. And this is a team, folks, that just continues to gobble up points, and the playoffs is right there, my brother.
Yeah, 80 points on the year for the Utah Mammoth. Just basically 3 wins away from eclipsing their point total from a year ago. And what a win. It was a win. You said it. The Mammoth give up 3 different leads against LA, a team that's used to playing in these close games. They've got some playoff pedigree. They're an experienced group. You're not supposed to win those games, Tyson, where you give up leads at 3 different junctures. But isn't that what playoff hockey's all about? It's about kind of overcoming obstacles maybe you didn't see and breaking through and bucking trends and finding a way to pick up 2 points and finding a way to come out in front. And boy, Lawson Krause, couple bingos, Nick Schmaltz, like that third goal that it was the third goal for Utah, his first of 2. He had the OT winner as well. The first one he scored, is that up there with goal of the year? I mean, just puck jacks the guy and then knocks it out of midair.
Well, and he's had 2 of those this year, right? So that tells me that Nick Schmaltz is completely bought in. And we are getting the best version of Nick Schmaltz. I haven't always seen that. He's had years where he's had, 45, 50 points, 60 points. Well, he's blown it all out of the water this year as far as goals, points, commitment, the work ethic, the battle factor, playing center, which I don't think he's looked any better. I mean, he is a centerman, like 1,000%. You need him handling the puck, but those type of goals, folks, those are the games and the wins and the points that are going to propel this team into the playoffs. Like that effort what was it, against the Flyers, he had one where he picked someone's pocket, went back the other way, and Clayton Keller ended up scoring. Well, this time it was the one-man show with Nick Schmaltz. Picks the defenseman's pocket again. He's so fast. He's so sneaky and unassuming, right? He's not going to hit you. You know that, but he's going to strip you, and he'd strip the defenseman. Puck ends up in the back of the net. Darcy Kemper had no chance. He's still looking for that puck right now. Batting it out of midair. I mean, that was a thing of beauty, and you could just tell the excitement in the building, but the excitement on the bench. And the bench was like, all right, boys, we are playoff bound. Let's go. Let's keep rolling. And you're right. It is about adversity. I mean, battling back. You see everything, literally every single thing you can imagine in the playoffs. And right now, Utah's experiencing that in the regular season, and they're finding ways to come out on top.
So I got a question for you from that game on Sunday, because this was one of the finer points of the game that maybe, more of our casual fans wouldn't have noticed. But all night, Barrett Hayton's line with Michael Carcone and Jack McBain was getting matched up against Anze Kopitar, Artemi Panarin, and Adrian Kempe. Could have 2 Hall of Famers on that line, basically. And they essentially neutralized them. Like, they had a couple chances here and there, but they weren't running around. Like, how important is it to have that checking line that can go up against other teams' best lines? And like, when you were playing, who were some of those like third lines that were so good at neutralizing opposing teams' top groups.
Well, that's where Andre Tourney is so good at giving guys roles and identities on their team. And I think you have to have that. And I think when you look at the Edmonton Oilers, that is what is lacking. It is so glaringly obvious to me. This team, you got no Draisaitl now. So now the onus is that much more on Connor McDavid, which drives me absolutely crazy. I'm from Edmonton. I'd love to see them have some success. They went to the Stanley Cup Finals the last 2 years and lost. But this is a team, Fultz, that has a bunch of forwards out there that have zero identity. They don't know what they are. They don't know what they're doing. They have nothing to take pride in to go out there and kill a penalty, shut down the other team's top line. That just doesn't exist there. But Andre Tourney has created that identity. And if this team goes into the playoffs, I'm telling you, they could do some damage as well. I mean, because you have that shutdown line, then you have that offensive juggernaut in Schmaltz and Keller, and then you got Gunther and Cooley, Paterka, like all the things, right? But you need that rock solid line. And that was kind of my identity a little bit at times in my NHL career where, you know, you moved up to the third line. I played with Craig Conroy and Mike Eastwood, where Jamal Mayers was thrown in on that line. And we would go out there and we would literally try to shut down the Legion of Doom in Philadelphia. It was Primo, it was Lindros, and it was John LeClair. And I mean, what an honor. Like, what a responsibility to just hang on to, right? And they don't care if you score. Andre Tourney doesn't care if that line goes out and scores. Just keep the other team off the scoreboard and you've done your job. And I love to see it because I think it's that much more important when it comes playoff time.
Exciting stuff. Mammoth taking on the Edmonton Oilers that you mentioned. That'll be on Tuesday. So that's after we're recording this, but before the show drops. And then you have got a big show coming up on Thursday. Back in State 45, back in Utah with Biz Nasty from Spittin' Chicklets, from TNT, from hockey. Like, I don't even know all the shows he's a part of now. But you and Paul Bissonnette are going to be hanging out, and that's going to be a ton of fun for the NashCast when Alex Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals come to town.
Yeah, Fultz, I cannot wait, right? This is a huge honor. Paul Bissonnette is a good buddy of mine. We hike, we do a ton of stuff. We golf together a ton. Like, we're a solid hang, and he's coming to hang out with us in the Delta Center. And the Delta Studio will absolutely be rocking. Come say hello, all you fans out there. Get your picture taken, all the things, right? We're like zoo animals in that studio. Everyone's looking in, wondering who's in there. But we're going to have so much fun. Bob Heathouse is going to be on the show.
Yes.
Todd Walsh is going to pop by and say hello. So Bob Heathouse was the guy that was just like you in radio, play-by-play guy, unreal set of pipes, but he gave myself and Paul Bissonnette our starts in broadcasting, right? He dealt with us. He babysat us. His back is still sore from dealing with my shenanigans on and off the ice. So Heater is one of the true greats. And obviously with the team moving to Utah from Arizona, he didn't get his due, right? So he's a guy that probably should be, up there as far as, the greats in broadcasting. He called a ton of games. He paid his dues, much like you have. The grind that's involved. And then on the show, first period, we're having Ryan Whitney. He's also one of the kingpins of Spittin' Chicklets. And then the second period, we got Scotty Upshaw, who is one of the co-hosts for Missing Curfew. So it's kind of a podcast heavy, type show. We're going to have a ton of fun. Stories will be great. Scotty Upshaw, he is a larger than life personality as well. Good looking dude. Was a savage on the ice and off the ice as well. He loved to have a good time. Hence the name Missing Curfew on the podcast. So can't wait, buddy.
Wit and the Updog. That's fantastic. So be sure to be following along on social media for all of that. Follow the Instagram if you're not already, and you follow the Instagram. That's another $1 out of Tyson Nash's pocket. He can't even afford sleeves anymore. Look at him.
Or cream. I look like Magda. Holy jeez. I'm drying up like an old raisin right now. But yeah, we're going to have a ton of fun, buddy. We're donating. We are donating. Tell your friends. Tell your parents. Tell your brother and sister. Tell your enemies. I don't care. we want to donate, make me go broke. I don't care. We want to put this money to great use, which is all about getting the kids in hockey. It's literally given me everything, Foltz. I know it's been a big part of your life as well. And for me, it still is. Some of my best friends are guys that I played with when I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, right? Some of the places that I got to travel, some of the life lessons that I went through, all due to hockey. So it's not even about the game, which is the greatest game on the earth, but it's just all the intangibles that come with it, all the things you can learn, the adversity that you go through, playing and being part of a team, being part of something other than yourself, right? So I want to get the kids involved because, again, it literally gave me everything. It was a gift for me.
So for every follow on Instagram, that's $1 that Tyson Nash is donating to youth hockey. So it's all going to a great cause. I was working out down in Sandy the other day, and I had a dinner right after, and I needed a place to shower, and I'm in Sandy, so I flashed my badge at the Utah Mammoth Ice Center, and I went in and showered there, and as I did that, like there's all these youth teams that are gearing up and playing there, right? And I'm walking in with like my Mammoth duffel bag, and these kids are chirping me at the practice facility. They think I'm like a referee or something like that. And so the kids are like, "Hey, give us a good call," or you're like, "You better not call a penalty on me." And so I have these 12-year-olds like just giving it to me as I'm just trying to go and get a quick rinse at the practice facility. But all good stuff. So make sure you follow the NashCast on Instagram. But Nasher, we should we'll get to our interview here in just a sec, but I wanted to touch on the Michael Carcone contract extension. You got a chance to see him in AZ before the transition to Utah. I think one of the better stories of the Utah Mammoth. He's a guy who got traded 3 times, was undrafted, didn't make it to the NHL until his 6th year in the American Hockey League. Kind of had to change his role a little bit once he got to the show. And then even last year, Tyson, we all heard his end of year exit interview. He said, like, "Yeah, I'm not going to be back." Well, what do you know? They sign him and he comes back, and then he signs an extension to stay another 2 years. So a crazy roundabout story for Michael Carcone, but a good one. And Utah's been glad to have him. 14 goals on the year so far. He's been good.
Yeah, and he comes at a bargain when you talk about those 14 goals, right? I mean, he's making under $2 million. The cap is rising, and his stock is rising. Let's just say that. This is a guy I've admired because he took the long road, right? He literally grinded it out, and he was a crazy story because the only reason he ended up in Arizona was because of COVID.
Yeah.
Milwaukee, Nashville Predators farm team shut the mill down. They literally shut everything down. They loaned all their players out to other teams around the league. Think of that. Think of that. When he ended up in Tucson with the Roadrunners, and they fell in love with him then. The coaches, the upper management, and they were like, "This guy's unreal." I think he led maybe the entire American Hockey League that year, or close to. He put up
he led the league in points 22-23, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So then that was the year. So the next year, that's when he gets his opportunity to make the National Hockey League with a team that had nothing to do with him. Nashville let him go. You wonder what Nashville's thinking right now. Going, holy cow, did we miss the boat on that COVID garbage, right? How did we shut down and lend our players out to other cities and other teams that were playing? Anyway, we're happy to have him. Love the story. And now he is just evolving as a player, which you have to do. You got to find a way. The AHL is very different than the National Hockey League, but he's found his role. He's found his niche, and he does it to a T. And I love to see that Bill Armstrong rewarded him with a 2-year contract.
Stephane Yelle is our guest coming up here in just a little bit. One more little morsel before we get to that interview. Nasher, did you see this? Elliot Friedman on Hockey Night in Canada mentioned that there's a potential new rule. I don't believe it's official yet, but a new rule that would allow 19-year-old first-round picks who had been playing in the CHL to play in the American Hockey League, which they were not before. You basically either had to go to the NHL or you had to play your way all the way through the CHL. So it's a changing of the rules now. It's probably difficult for the CHL. I would imagine they don't love seeing that potentially losing star players to the American Hockey League. But as far as what's best for the athletes themselves, Tyson, I feel like it makes a lot of sense.
It does. And for me, Fultz, now with the rules. So how it worked before is you're exactly right. If you were 19, you're trying for your NHL club that drafted you. If you didn't make the NHL team, you had to go back to junior. And that sucked if you were an elite player. So take, for example, TJ Ginla, right? And there's been a number of them over the years, but not many 19-year-olds can play at the American Hockey League level, right? Let's just say that. It's great hockey. It's the jungle. It's a grind. There's players in that league that are fighting for literally for their families and their lives with their kids and trying to put food on the table, right? So it is a grind. I will say that. But I think it's a little bit more irrelevant now that the NCAA has changed their rule. Yep. So now when you see TJ Ginla, he can't go back. He is too good for the WHL. All he's going to do, Fultz, is digress. And he's going to pick up horrible habits with Kelowna and junior because he's too good, right? He has to play in a league that's better. And so now if he comes up to Utah next year with the Mammoths, doesn't make the team, I think it would make sense for him to play in the American Hockey League. But if that's not the case, he can still go play in the NCAA, which was never an option before. Right. So now you're playing in a much better league in the NCAA. He's going to make NIL money on top of it all. So he's going to get, a big fat pocketbook, and he's going to play at an elite level. You only play on the weekend. You can train all week long. You can study the game. You can do all the things. So I think it's absolutely brilliant. Whichever,
you didn't mention
like
go
a Bill
to class
Armstrong
in there.
What's that?
You didn't mention go to class in there.
Yeah. No. But so yeah, it sucks for the CHL, but it is about the development of the players, right? And Bill Armstrong will certainly have a say in what TJ Ginla, is his future looks like.
It would have been nice if that rule was in place this year, because TJ Ginla, looking at his hockey DB, 41 goals in 48 games for the Kelowna Rockets in the WHL. Now, who this could apply to is Caleb Denoye, who the Mammoth took 4th overall in this most recent draft. He'll be 19 next year, and he could theoretically be in Tucson next year with the Roadrunners. And then, Tyson, you can call him up if he's doing really well. Like, say he needs to stay there the whole year and marinate, he can do that. But if he is a point a game, if he's dominating the American Hockey League, which would be quite a bit for a 19-year-old, but if he is, you could theoretically call him up to the big leagues and get him a taste of the NHL sooner rather than later. So I'm a fan of it. I know it's tough for the CHL, which is the lifeblood of hockey in Canada, all the junior league teams in those cities from coast to coast and in Canada, but it just makes a lot of sense for teams from a scouting perspective and from a talent evaluation perspective and for the players themselves.
Yeah. And again, I'll say this last thing before we do get to the interview with Stephane Yelle. It was a great one, by the way, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, not a big deal. But it allows, like, first of all, the CHL is going to lose players anyway at 19, right? Because even at 18, you're going to lose them at 18 and 19 and surely 20. They're going to go play in the NCAA. Right. It's that simple. That's the option. That's the road now. If you're asking me, my son went through it. I'm not sure he could have left at 19 or 20, but he left at 21. And it's been absolutely huge. So it's all about development. I do want to say one last thing. I love the Uyghur thing. You were just explaining before we started taping. Wigs for Wigs. So
Wigs for Wigs. Hold on. Here we go. Ready?
Oh, that is fantastic.
Now, Dave Joseph, who's our PA guy, he had a more finely coiffed wig. Mine's more of like a 80s punk. It's, kind of the headset was getting in the way, so I had to take it off during the game. But
run a comb through that thing, Fultz. Holy, show some respect. Weeks would be disappointed.
Comb my hair with a grenade. But it was just a bunch of Mammoth fans, Tyson. Just a bunch of Mammoth fans that wanted to make Mackenzie Weegar feel welcome. Only a few weeks into his new life in Utah. And so they came up with Wigs for Wigs. There's no charity behind it or anything like that yet. Maybe that it's something that he could lead into later. But Really cool just for the fans to kind of come together. I think they had some shirts that said Wigs for Weeks too. So just trying to make him feel
Die Hard.
appreciated. Yeah, I love it.
They have so many. Like, what are the other ones? You got the veggie head. You got, I mean, literally, there's so many out there. I love it. You got Spicy Tuna with his own gig going. So that is the fan base in Utah, right? And that's only going to get better. I can't wait. I cannot wait, and I don't want to jinx it. But if this team, Fultz, oh my God, gets to the playoffs, like, I cannot imagine how crazy that building is going to be, how crazy the town is going to be. I mean, it's nuts anyway. Game day, you're walking around. It's like we're back in Canada, right? Like jerseys, all the kids are wearing them up and down the streets, wandering around. Like, it's so cool to see. Because we haven't seen it for a long time. Guys like Keller, and I mean, when was the last time these guys were in the playoffs?
1920. 1920.
Right.
That was when 24 teams got in the playoffs.
Right, and that was a joke, so that doesn't even count to me because the COVID garbage, right? It's like everybody got in, and that wasn't the real thing because it didn't take that much to get in, right? This year, what they're doing
no fans.
Is right? Unbelievable. And no fans. Like, a complete joke, the whole thing. Anyway, it's over, and playoffs is right around the corner. I can't wait. My favorite time of the year. But, Fultz, let's get to Stephane Yelle. Unreal interview. An absolute sweetheart this guy is. But a warrior on the ice. Not a big guy. Played almost 180 playoff games. Imagine that. 2 Stanley Cups. Both with Colorado. The first version of Colorado. The second version of Colorado. He was a part of it all, and he almost played 1,000 games. Crazy story behind that, but I hope you guys enjoy. Again, NashCast official, all the good stuff, and yeah, so take it all in, suck it up, and enjoy. Stephane Yelle. Guy I am so excited about, good buddy of mine, living in Scottsdale, Arizona. He played 15 years in the National Hockey League. 991 games, 171 playoff games, 2 Stanley Cups. He was drafted by the New Jersey Devils in the 8th round, 86th overall. And tonight we're going to dive into his career, one of hockey's most reliable, underrated players to ever play the game. He's not a flashy guy, but he's got a ton of grit, discipline, championship pedigree. He was not a guy lighting up on the scoreboard, Trev, but he was a guy that shut down the opposition, much like you did. A defensive specialist, relentless work ethic, elite face-off ability. This is a guy that obviously got it done. He's a backbone of every winning team. You need a guy like that, much like yourself. Stephane Yelle, buddy, how we doing, fella?
What's going on, boys?
Look at you. Like, is
What's
that
up, neighbor?
Yeah, exactly. Well, where are you and what are you doing? And is that your library? What's going on there?
Yeah, that's my office. I'm in Scottsdale right now.
I love it. Where's all the Stanley Cups, the little baby Stanley Cups that they give you guys?
Hold on here. I think I gotta go up.
Oh, you gotta go on top for those. That's nice.
Top shelf.
Yeah.
Top shelf.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeller, that beard though, what's going on? It's getting gray.
I know. God, I'm getting old. I'm much older than you guys.
Much older. You're a year older, buddy, all right?
Oh, from you? Okay, yeah, sorry.
A year.
Maybe much older than Trevor.
So I don't know if you obviously played against them, right? You guys played against each other?
Yeah, my last couple of years, I think.
The last couple of years, I think I would have got a few games against you. Yep.
He was a pain in the ass to play against. Like, I can tell you that. He won every face-off.
Yeah, he did.
Chasing around. He's got these skinny little legs, but he blocked every shot.
Blocked every shot.
Imaginable.
I know.
Like, he trains like an animal
funny.
still. CrossFit.
Oh,
him and his wife Sue in his driveway. You still doing that, Yeller?
Yeah, we still work out of the garage most of the mornings. Just trying to stay active and keep up with you. Actually, you're still looking amazing.
Yeah, with about 10 drinks in you. Where's the glass of wine, Yeller? I know there's a glass of wine there somewhere.
Yeah, it's right here.
Oh, you got it. Oh, there we go.
Oh, white wine.
White wine tonight, nice.
White wine. Wow, you're freshening it up, eh?
Yeah, I fell into the Chardonnay trend for the last little while here, so.
That's nice.
Well,
Keeps me happy at night.
You're French, so you know your wine, right?
Absolutely.
You know your food and you know your wine. Yeller, I gotta ask you. So, I know you're living in Scottsdale, but your daughter Sienna she's down here in Utah State. I know you spend
Yeah.
a lot of time down here. You were just down here. She's in gymnastics, but what are your thoughts on Utah? I know you talk really highly of Salt Lake.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Again, I'm wearing the Aggies gear tonight, but yeah, she's at Utah State in Logan. So we spent quite a bit of time since June. We moved her in. She's a gymnast, so she had to train throughout the summer. But Salt Lake's been awesome. Utah is amazing. It's beautiful. Even when we lived in Vegas for 5 years, I think, and we spent some time up in Park City for Christmas.
Oh.
And it's just beautiful. Again, this year there's not a lot of snow, but back in the day when we went there, it was amazing.
The high rent district.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I can't afford to be up there.
Nope.
Trev maybe can.
No, not anymore. It's getting crazy out there.
I love it.
Yeah, but do you get to?
Yeah, but it's been awesome. Logan's a cute little town up in the mountains, so.
Yeller, do you get to spend any time out here? Have you been out and been able to check out the building here and you know what they've been able to do here in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, no, I haven't. I actually walked around it during the summer. They're doing renos. I'm still waiting for Tyson to invite me over for a game.
Okay, nice. I was just wondering. I know early in your career, was it your first year in the Nordiques moved to Colorado there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a similar situation to to here. The team coming from Arizona, and but it sounds like the setup might have been a little nicer here. Talk about just the first year coming into Colorado. I think I heard that you guys didn't even have a practice rink set up or anything like that.
Yeah, much different. When we moved to Denver in '96, it was my first year, so I was fresh. I didn't know much, but I didn't know much about the big leagues. But we did play at McNichols, and then we had to for every practice or most of the practices, because the Nuggets played in the same building, and that was the only building in Denver for all the entertainment. So we had to get dressed at McNichols, either drive to DU, which is probably 10 minutes, 15 minutes from the main rink, or we go to South Suburban, which is probably a half-hour drive. So yeah, it's kind of messy for the first few years, and eventually they moved to I think the building they still have, which it's getting old, but yeah, it's from what I've seen on TV, the practice rink here, or where you guys are at in Utah, looks amazing.
Yeah, and it looks like the guys are pretty spoiled there.
Well, the big thing is, like, now the excuses are gone, right? I know, Yelle, you've been to some games there at the Mullet back in the day, but they come here, they have a facility like that. I mean, Clayton Keller gets picked up in D.C. on the owner's private plane, and he's back. I mean, it's just absolutely first class. But when you take the excuses out, I mean, now it's all about winning. And Utah, I don't know if you follow the team at all. I think you do. But are you surprised at all where they're at? And, I mean, they're in the driver's seat right now. 25 games left. It's up to them now to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, they're right there. Aren't they, like a point or two out of the wild card?
Yeah, they're in. They're in.
Yeah, are they in? Yeah. And what's funny is that my cable here, I get there's one channel I get either the Golden Knights or the Mammoth, like most of the games or every game. So I've been following them, and obviously with Sienna up in Logan, I'm a little more interested than if she wasn't there. But yeah, they're playing well. It's fun to watch, and what do we have, like 25 games left? Should be exciting.
Yeah, 14 at home. I got to ask you, as far as your time with the Avs, you played in Cornwall, you had an unreal year, and your first year in the National Hockey League, I mean, you light it up, and you win a Stanley Cup, and you're playing with guys like Sakic and Forsberg and Claude Lemieux and Reach and Mike Keane, Adam Foote, Patrick Waugh. What was that like, and how intimidated were you walking into that locker room?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it's funny because I just had a 25th and a 30th anniversary of our Stanley Cups, and I got to see all the guys again, especially the team from 30 years ago. Some guys I hadn't seen in 30 years, it was amazing. From I saw Keener, I saw Claude again. Obviously Joe was there. Some guys were missing, like Patty, because he's in Long Island coaching, but again, I was lucky. I got to play with some amazing players. Saw Peter the last couple of times I was down there. So, what can I say? I was, like I said, over a 15-year career, you get a chance to play with some amazing players. From I played with Yelle Curry, with Theo Fleury, some of the guys that I watched as a young guy. So it was really cool.
Yeah, speaking of your 30-year Cup anniversary, I was lucky enough just to have my 10th a few years ago, and
that's why you're not so great.
Yeah. But anyways, I was
exactly.
Going back to that. I think we just had such a tight group that being away from the guys for 10 years, you come back and it's like you never left. You're still telling the stupid stories, and I was just wondering if the team that you had your 30-year anniversary with was that tight, and what it was like to see those guys again.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's kind of funny. Me and my wife were talking about this. The 30th, the team for the first Cup, the 30th team was. I felt like we're actually closer. I don't know. It's because we had just moved from Quebec City, and it was kind of a weird year, first time in a new city, and kind of like the first. It was the first championship in Denver, so it was super special. But yeah, it was just amazing. It felt like you never left those guys after 30 years. And that bond, like you said, when you win, it's a special bond. I mean, we just saw that for, with Team USA. Those guys will never forget.
Absolutely.
How was Ozolinsh? I know he was a big part of that team, and, it's not a household name, but how good was that guy?
Yeah, he was amazing. One of the best skaters I ever played with. Super strong, like big guy. Again, like you forget how big some of those guys were, especially the Russians. We had a bunch of Russians on that team that year, Gusarov, Kamensky, and Goose, and just a bunch of good guys. We had it was like a hot stove the first night in front of 2,000 people, and then we got talking about how they would smoke cigarettes between periods.
I could smoke one in the shower, Yeller, you know that, but this knows.
But yeah, they would, where we would fix our sticks, they would, and you guys are too young for that, or at least Trevor is. We used to curve our sticks with the blow torches, right?
That's right. That's right.
So at McNichols, the locker room doors right there, and then where we would fix our sticks was like the bench was right there, and it was right next to the Zamboni. And Gusarov would actually light his cigarette with the blowtorch.
As he's curving his stick.
And then Mark Crawford would come in and say, "Come on, Goose, go smoke somewhere else," because they would come in, it would drag it, the smoke would drag into the locker room.
That's great.
So anyways, yeah. And then some guys played with Guy Lafleur with the Nordiques, and they're telling stories about Guy would smoke all the time,
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny stories dating back to 30 years ago.
Oh, that's crazy. We're looking at Ozolinsh right there on the camera. He's a big moose. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, tall, big, strong. They're amazing. Those, like I said, the Russians were so gifted. They were a big part of our team in '96.
How about Claude Lemieux? I mean, this is a guy. I mean, Sakic that year had 120 points. Forsberg 116. Claude Lemieux's numbers were off the charts, and you knew he was an agitator. He was in the grill of everybody. But what was he like off the ice? And obviously, and on the ice. I never had a chance to play with him, unfortunately.
Yeah, Pepe is the best. Again, for us, he was like he was the spark plug for our team. Came from Jersey. I think he had just won the year before. And or maybe they won the year after. Anyways,
it was a Conn Smythe the year before, you're right.
Yeah, that's what it was, yeah. So, had a lot of experience. He was gritty. He played that game in Montreal, too, when he was younger. And but then off the ice, him and Debbie, his wife, are amazing. Like to have a good time, good food. I was a rookie in, it must have been my first year. Anyways, we played in New York, and he took me and Rene Corbet out that night after the game I think we played in Jersey, but we ended up in New York with them and kind of showed us around, took care of us. Just a solid guy.
Wow. Oh, we got a goal here. It's Brent Burns,
Brent
the
Burns still
ageless
going.
wonder.
He's still going.
I'm still wondering what's
Yeah.
in that beard he's got going,
kidding.
and that backpack he carries around. I heard there's a 60-pound weight in that thing.
I think there's like a coffee machine and everything in there. I think
Really?
he brings his own coffee machine to the game. Yeah.
Ronnie Sulser, a guy we were talking about, is still that's his last client.
He's still
in
going
the National
too.
Hockey League. He's still going, but I mean, Brent Burns, you played against him a ton, Yeller.
Yeah, and I actually saw him in the locker room a couple weeks ago when I was down there. Like, talk about big. It's on skates. He
Not
must
in the
be
shower, I
6'7", 6'. No, not in the shower. No. That's where you hang out, buddy.
Yeah, that's right. Lots of cold showers in my days. I can tell you that.
Cool.
Oh, wow, we got a
Goalie
goaltender interference
Here we
here.
go.
Andre Turney, let's go.
Video-
Hunter, the video guy, I'm sure he had a lot to do with this call.
Video
Here.
guys are on it already.
Let's see the play.
Ooh, no.
Oh, good overhead look here. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, can't do that.
This one won't count, folks. This one won't count. No chance. We didn't have that video replay back in the day, thank God, Yeller.
I know, right?
Speaking of another guy you played with in Colorado, I think it was your second cup. He's a GM of mine in LA, Rob Blake.
Oh, yeah, Blakey.
I just wondering what he was like. He was so good to me, and he's such a genuine person. And I was just wondering what he was like in the locker room.
Yeah, I just saw him at the 25th. Same old Blakey.
Yeah.
Super calm. Off the ice, super calm, and he gets on the ice. He's kind of he's kind of a killer, right?
Savage.
Yeah, and he hit with that his butt all the time, right? And
Yeah,
just-
hip check, and it's funny because I think he had both hip replaced recently.
Yeah,
So.
he did.
That'll teach him.
Yeah.
I felt that big ass of his.
Yeah.
Is that ass still as big as it was back in the day?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. He looks good though. He's still in shape, and I think it's a funny story. I think he started hitting with his hips because he had a bad shoulder.
Yeah,
initially.
that's true.
And then he wrecked both hips, and now he's got two new hips, and he's feeling good. So yeah, but yeah, awesome guy, great leader, especially during our cup run. And we got to play against LA that year.
Yeah.
And we're having a hard time against them. Finally, beat them. But just a nice guy. I mean, you've had him. Super quiet.
Yeah.
One of the best guys I've ever played with.
Yeah, he's a unreal guy and such a genuine person too. So.
Yeah.
Yeller, I played with Reach at the end of his career. You played at him in the prime of his career. What was he like as a player back in that day? I mean, and was he the type of guy? You had Keane, you had Reach, you had Foot, you had so many great veterans to learn from as a rookie. Was he had a big influence in your career?
Yeah, he was awesome. We were stacked that year. I came up from Cornwall, like you mentioned, and I was one of their best players offensively, and then you fall behind like Sakic, Forsberg, and Reach, and me and Reach kind of we shared responsibilities on the fourth and third line. He helped me out again. One of the best guys. Saw him at the 30th anniversary, and he's just so genuine, and people are so attracted to him because of his personality, and he's like that on and off the ice, and he was an amazing teammate, and he'll be a friend forever. And like you mentioned, Mike Keane, that was a big piece. When Patty and Mike Keane came in, I was actually living with Jocelyn Thibault at the time, and we watched a game against, it was Montreal against, I think, the Red Wings, and Tremblay left Patty in the net for 9 goals, or something like that. He kind of embarrassed him, and that was the end of it. And I was living with Tibbs, and then a couple days later, we got the phone call he was getting traded. So, and but those two guys made a big difference. I mean, they, we had a good team, but when they came in, they really took over.
When you're goaltender for us, it's going to be Karel Vejmelka down the stretch. But when you bring a guy like Patty Waugh into your locker room, onto your team, I mean, that is a massive boost. You guys must have been so juiced up.
Yeah, Patty, I mean, I don't know if you know him. He's he's so intense and so passionate. And we had a bunch of leaders from Footy to Joe and Peter, and all different obviously different styles of leadership, but I mean, Patty was, I mean, he was the heart of our team. He was, you know, he was our leader. I know not a lot of times goalies are your leaders, but
would he give it to you guys? Would he give it to you? Like, I remember I played with Sean Burke. Sean Burke used to give it to me in the locker room. He's like, can you block a shot? For God's sake, block a shot. And I'm like, how about you stop a puck? Like, we used to literally fight in the locker room. I would imagine Patty was a lot the same.
Actually, he was never personal. He tried to get the team going either by throwing like a Gatorade cooler around the room or something, or breaking sticks and losing it. But he stuck up for the players or the guys when the coaches were kind of out of bounds or were kind of, being, I wouldn't say disrespectful, but they were just trying to stir shit, or sorry, bad word here, but trying to stir the pot.
Hey, you could say it. We're freewheeling here, buddy.
All right. So when he thought that the coaches were out of line, he'd step in and take care of it. But he was amazing. And at the same time, a lot of times he'd stay. He'd try to take the pressure off some of our captains or some of our big players and put that on him, and that's when he played his best. And some of the stuff that he would say sometimes on the news or on TV, you questioned it, but he had a reason for doing it. So. Yeah, special dude, and I mean, so intense, and I mean, you look at his career, is amazing.
Yeah, speaking of Patty Waugh, I mean, I grew up watching the Detroit-Colorado rivalry, and I grew up a Detroit fan, unfortunately, but we used to sit back every time the Avs and the Red Wings played. Like, those were our nights we were watching the games. Those are some of the most unbelievable games, and I was just wondering, what was it like being part of that rivalry, and what were those games like?
Yeah, it was amazing. Again, people still talk about it. There's so much happened during those years, but a couple of things that kind of come to mind is that when we would go to Detroit, like if we stayed in town and went to a bar or restaurant, as much as Detroit hated the Avs, Claude Lemieux is the biggest celebrity there. They want to take pictures with him. It was weird, right?
I wonder why.
They loved him and they respected him. On the ice, obviously, it was a good show, and guys hated each other. And at the same time, I got to play with Darren McCarty in Calgary, and he was one of those guys during that time. I mean, I think he beat up Pepe that night, or one of those nights. And then he was the nicest dude, just kind of a mellow guy, but then on the ice he was kind of a killer. But
savage. Yeah.
So many good memories. So we played an outdoor game in Denver years ago. I think it was 2012 or 2015, and the alumni game I think was more popular than the actual team at the time because people were remembering that rivalry. So.
All right, Yeller, a couple more. I mean, Forsberg. This is a guy. I think it's the saddest thing, maybe equal to Eric Lindros, right? Two studs that had their careers cut way, way too short for a huge hockey fan, which I was. I hated playing against Forsberg because he had that reverse shoulder. Not that I was on the ice very often against him. Quinville always was like, get off the ice, Nash. What are you doing? Forsberg's out there. Holy crap, get up. But what was it like playing with that guy, and how good was he?
Yeah, arguably one of the best I've played with. Again, him and Peter, amazing players, just different styles. Peter had like a vicious side to him, like you said, the reverse hit, the shoulder, or if he got pissed off, he'd be all over the ice and trying to wreck guys. just an amazing. Most Swedish guys are, their temperament are super calm and respectful, and Peter's that type of guy. He's super. You never think he's a celebrity. He just goes around, does his business, and just a great teammate to have the chance to play with.
It's amazing. Speaking of, since we're asking about so many guys here, I got to ask you. I played for Daryl Sutter for a while, and I know you did too. I was just wondering if you had any stories about him, and if we could match any up, because I got to know. The different sides of the stories from LA to Calgary, and in Calgary I knew all his antics, so and he knew that. So I was just wondering if you had any good stories of him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess me and you were his type of players.
Yeah.
We got lucky because if you're on his bad side, or maybe not this bad side, but if he doesn't like your
Yep.
personality or your style, it makes it very tough and so intense. Kind of like the same. I don't know what I was talking about. The minute like Daryl would open the door of the Saddle Dome, he would lose his mind. You know, he starts like
Yep.
he's almost into a rage. But then, at the same time, when he's off the ice, he can be so like calm and loves family. He wants to be around people and be so kind. But from spitting out, I don't know if he did that with you, but he put his hands on his knees and
Oh, I was
started
telling
like,
Nasher that before the game. He's
Yeah.
like, he was still playing before
Yeah,
the game,
exactly.
spitting on the floor. Yeah. When he
I
first came
remember
to LA,
saying-
he
Yeah.
the first game, he's in the locker room before the game. He's doing that, and everyone's like looking around, like, "What is this guy
I know.
doing? He's getting ready to play too." So,
That's exactly like me and Chris Drury got traded together to Calgary, and the first game he did that, Chris looks at me, he's like, "What the heck is he doing?"
it was the best. Though. It got you fired
Oh,
up
yeah.
too a little bit.
Yeah, so intense, and I don't know. Yeah, it was crazy.
I was telling Nasher before here, like I said, in Calgary, I knew all his antics, and he kind of knew that. And I'd be the first guy at the rink in the mornings, and he'd come have breakfast with me every morning, and just be like, shooting the shit, whatever, and just. He'd be
Yeah.
like, "Hey, you and your wife want to go out tonight? I'll babysit the kids for you." I'm like, "No, I'm okay."
Yeah, you want him babysitting the kids.
Yeah.
And then as soon as someone else walked in the door, he'd just tap me on the back, and a switch would go off like that, and he'd be a completely different person. And just getting to know him, and he flipped a switch at a rink, and off the ice, he was away from the rink. He was such a people person and such a family man, and such a good guy.
Like Tyson, Chuck had the you've heard stories about Chuck about Daryl.
The Ukraine train?
Ukraine train, yeah,
Chuck
exactly. From
Kovacic.
me being a favorite of Daryl, and then Lombo and Chuck being like the whipping boys. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love those stories. So Yeller, you win a cup in, was it 96? You took a few years off. There was a dip with the team. But you win again in 2001. What was the difference between those two groups? Very different teams when you look at the personnel that you guys had.
Yeah, good question. I mean, we took a dip. We had really good teams. We had Detroit and Dallas that were in the way every year. So we lost a bunch of game sevens in the semifinals, and then 2001 or 2000, Ray Bork showed up.
Oh,
and
no big
that was-
deal.
I know,
Rob
right?
Blake, Ray
Yeah.
Bork.
Yeah, and then we made a run for it. Lost, I think, against Detroit, and then he decided to come back. And then, I mean, from training camp on, I mean, Trevor had Daryl, and then you had Joel. Like, you show up at camp to win the cup. It's not like we want to make the playoffs. Obviously, you want to make the playoffs, but like,
I
the
love that
mindset is winning
mentality.
the cup, right? So with Ray coming back the next year, well, things got like elevated to the next level, and then we made a run. We had a battle against. We were trailing Jersey 3-1, right? Came back and won Game 7. So yeah, it was fun. I mean, Ray's an amazing guy. Again, talk about a leader, a team guy. Rookie parties. He'd be up there telling jokes with the rookies.
Wow.
Just an amazing dude, yeah.
Unreal. I love that. Like, it was such a legend.
that's
And
unbelievable.
thanks, by the
Yeah.
way. You beat us, Yeller, by the way, in the Western Conference Finals, the
Yeah.
St. Louis Blues. So
Yeah,
thanks.
that was my biggest goal ever, right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, thanks for
In
that.
overtime.
Yeah, I'm still
Yeah.
waiting for the wine or even a glass of wine, Yeller.
Yeah.
But your
I
team,
didn't realize you played on that team.
I clearly had an impact. I was actually hurt, but I blew my ACL out and right before that,
is that one?
unfortunately.
Okay, got it.
Otherwise, we probably would have won. You know that. Me and Dan Hineout You know, but talk about some of the
Danny.
character guys that you guys had, and going into your career. I mean, would you do anything different? Because I know you were a skilled guy. You put over 100 points up in junior. You had huge numbers in Cornwall in the American Hockey League. But then you adapted to a role player, and obviously we saw it in Detroit with guys like Malpe and Draper, and then obviously guys like you in Colorado. You guys are difference makers. You guys are the backbones of championship teams.
Yeah, I mean, I played a pretty solid game. In juniors, I was blocking shots already at that time. So when I moved up in Denver that year, I kind of settled behind those guys, and I kind of played my game defensively, which I did, in juniors and then in Cornwall, and it worked out. I mean, from Danny Hino, which his energy is amazing, from Sean Podine, Eric Messier, all of us blocked a lot of shots, and Patty appreciated it, like he loved it. I don't know about you, Trevor, but like Patty was the guy, like on a face-off, he'd be like, all right, let's say it's McInnes or whoever was at the point, he's like, all right, Steph, I want you to take, if you lose the face-off and he's shooting, go low, go down, block, so you cover the bottom.
Yeah.
And then that way Patty knew that he could stand up and stay up longer to protect the top of the net. So there's all kinds of cool stuff that we did with the Avs and Patty, and to go back to Patty again, he was a good teacher, right? If a defenseman came in or a new guy on the team came in, he would teach him how to play a 2-on-1 the way he wanted it.
Wow.
That way he wouldn't get caught on the wrong side of the puck or the wrong side of the net. So
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Going over your career, I mean, it's very similar to mine. Just doing the research.
Now you guys are rubbing it in, eh? Do I feel like a third wheel? Yeah, we got four. Hey, at least we got 4 cups between the 3 of us, guys.
No, I mean, for me, coming out, I scored a lot of points in junior too, and at first, I was a first-round pick, but I thought, coming into the NHL, like I'm gonna be on the power play, scoring some goals, and then my first year in the minors and my first call-up, I realized really quick that I'm gonna have to not necessarily change my game, because like I said, I block shots and in junior and stuff too, but I'm gonna have to focus more on being a role player and penalty kills and a guy that the coach can trust.
Yep.
I'm just wondering if that kind of happened naturally for you, or was there like kind of a wake-up call, or just kind of a moment that happened to you?
Yeah, again, I moved into I played in Cornwall the 1 year, did well offensively, and then where I'm from, he lives a town over, is Jacques Martin.
Yeah.
Ah,
From so I worked his hockey
I like the
school
French.
every
You're
year.
heavy on the French
I know,
accent
right?
there, eh? Hey, we're not at the bar anymore, all right?
So Jacques was a neighbor from one town over, and I worked his hockey school every year, and Crawford was one of the celebrity coach, I guess. And he came in that summer, and he's like, you're coming into Denver not to just be a passenger, you're coming in to make the team, So he tells me the story. So showed up, eventually they tell me I'm staying. So yeah, I went with the flow. Obviously, like you said, I wasn't going to see any power play with those guys.
Yeah.
So they're giving me the ice time, kind of giving me a little direction on what kind of like my role was, and then just took it on, and then stayed in. I was in Denver for 6 years, so that became my role. So.
Yep.
Would you do anything different, Yeller? I mean, do you get not bitter? Bitter's not the word, because you had such a great long career, but just being labeled like a defensive player. I mean, would you do anything different in your career? Would you try to be more offense? Would you go into the coach's office today and go, hey, I want to make more money. I can put up points too? Like all the star players, they get all the accolades, right? But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, again, like I said, some of the guys in front of me were, they had Sachs and Peter and Reach. I mean, they were all established players. Their stats were better than mine. So, thinking back 30 years ago, I don't think I just went. I just went along. I was so happy to make the team. I still remember Jacques was like, "Hey, did Crow?" It was before practice at DU, and Jacques was like, "Did Crow tell you to get an apartment?" And I was like, "No," meaning like back in the day, get an apartment, you make the team, and I was just like flying around. I was in heaven. And then after that, I just did what they wanted me to do, and then obviously we were winning games. Things are going well. I was having a good time, and I just kind of fell in that role, and that was the end of it.
That's awesome. Yeah. And speaking of another thing, we have a similar. You start your career in Colorado, and it looks like you finish your career in Colorado too. I was able to do that in LA, and I was just wondering how special that was, and what was it like, and what was the differences? You go from a cup-winning team to coming back, and and it being a little different.
Yeah, I mean it was nice. A little different when you come back the second time, but got to meet and play with some guys that I would never have the chance to, like Darcy Tucker and Johnny Lyles and Ryan O'Reilly, some of the young guys like Matt Duchesne. So I was only there for a few months, but it was kind of nice to come back to Denver, which I was familiar with, and it was kind of a nice finish for me. Although I would have liked to get to 1,000 games like you did, Trevor. I fell short.
What happened there, Yeller?
Yeah.
Is there a
I know, I
story
blocked
there?
too
Like
many shots.
991. I actually thought it was 999.
Yeah, imagine. No, I mean I was I didn't get a contract the next year, and I was at the end I was done. I played 15 years, 1 year in the minors, so 16 years, and again we, all three of us played a game that we played a tough game from. No, I didn't scrap, but I was hitting, I was blocking shots, and it gets old after a while, and your body feels it. So
How about your time, Yeller, in Calgary? You go from 2 cups in Colorado, then you come up just a hair short with the Calgary Flames. How good was that team, and how disappointing was that? Knowing that you were right there once again.
Yeah, Game 7, Tampa Bay. I mean, we had them. It was a fun year. We had a good group, Iggy and Kipper, a bunch of guys, Chris Simon. We got on a roll, and Daryl just kept feeding us, and it got special. I mean, you guys remember the Sea of Red in Calgary, and it got a little
Red Mile.
crazy.
I know
the Red
place
Mile.
was
Yeah,
nuts.
yeah, it was fun. I mean, I wish we could have won it for the city of Calgary, but what a run! It was. I mean, I was in Calgary for 7 years. It's a good time. Calgary's a good town. It's good hockey town.
Yeah, I mean, I experienced Calgary in the playoffs. We only made it to the second round, but like the Red Mile there was absolutely insane. My dad was there more than anyone you could ever.
Your dad's here tonight too.
My dad's here
I love
tonight. Yeah, my dad was all over that. So I can only imagine how insane that was there.
Yeah, good city. Again, like I said, got to play with a bunch of different guys. When you play 15 years, I don't know, Trevor, you played about that, right? 15?
Yep. Yeah.
It's a ton of guys to play with. It's a bunch of different personalities. It's so much fun. When you start thinking back of all the the people that you've had a chance to play with, it's pretty special.
You played with Forsberg. You played with Sakic. Jerome McGinley was a different animal as well. I think in that playoff run, he fought someone, and it had a massive impact in every single round that you guys played in. But how good was Jerome?
Yeah, Iggy was amazing. Offensively, obviously, everyone knows he could score goals, but then physically, and when he wanted to fire up the team, he would drop the gloves, and he was one of the toughest, and then he'd go at it. And just a good bunch of guys to get to play with. From Tony Amonte, I played with him in Calgary. Wow. Just guys that I kind of I grew up watching. He played in Chicago at the time, and then you get to play with him, which is fun. Craig Berube, like Chief, that coaches in Toronto now. Just tough, but a super cool guy to be a teammate with on and off the ice. So it's no, you're making me think of all these players I play with. It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
Getting some blood flow there, Yelle.
No.
I was lucky enough
Like
to get the chance to play with Yelle and at the end of his career in LA, and he was something else.
Yeah,
even then, he wasn't as fast as he used to be, but he fought anyone and scored big goals. So it's pretty amazing to see.
Yeah, and one guy I think me and Ray Whitney always talk about him is Theo Fleury. I played with him for maybe a year and a half, maybe in Denver, maybe 2 years, and talk about gifted and talented and stuff that he would show us in practice that he could do was just amazing. Wow. Little guy, super fast, and his hands were amazing. Like now in this league, he would tear it up. Like it'd be crazy.
Hall of Fame worthy. I can't say enough good things about Fleury. Yeah. I mean, this guy paved the way for every small player to ever come along. Guys like Ray Whitney and Steve Sullivan, and right. I mean, you played with him. I mean, this guy was super special. Yeah.
Again, Theo just the gifted for his size. Probably the most gifted player I've ever played with. And then you mentioned Ray. I played with him in Carolina. Amazing hands, just a great guy to be around. Good. I mean, we hang out quite a bit here in Scottsdale together. It's just an amazing player on the ice. The Wizard he can pull it off. So pretty cool.
Some absolute legends there, huh?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Unreal. Yelle, what a career. I can't thank you enough, buddy. We're coming to an end here in the period. Thank you so much, buddy. I'll see you when I get back to Scottsdale. Your hat's upside down, by the way. But but I love you. And anytime Sienna needs tickets to the game, we got you covered, buddy.
Appreciate it, boys.
Yeah. Take care, man. Say hi to Sue.
Love
you, buddy.
Folks, there you have it. My buddy, Stephane Yelle, so kind, generous to give us his time. His daughter is in Salt Lake, gymnastics, right? Going to school. Soaking it all in. We've got her to a few Utah Mammoth games. He's loving what's going on in Utah. And this is a guy, too, by the way, that he talked a lot about it in the interview. He was the original version of the Colorado Avalanche, right? They played, I think, their first exhibition game in Colorado, but it was actually in Vail. And there was like 200 people there. Like, think of that. 200 people. He's like, what is going on here? Like, this is like they were dressing and driving to their practice rink every day.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was gritty. It was an absolute grind. So it's crazy because, we've gone through it in Utah, very different, of course, right? With our ownership group. I mean, they made sure from day one that this place was absolutely spectacular. That the players had everything they needed. Not so much in Denver with the Avs. It was a grind. But they found a way. They won a cup in that first year, and Stephane Yelle was a part of it. And then they won a cup a few years later. Beat us, actually, in the Western Conference Finals when I was with the St. Louis Blues. It was absolutely gut-wrenching. But you weren't going to touch that team. They had Forsberg, they had Sakic, they had Ray Bourque, they had Rob Blake. I mean, it was endless. Good night. They were star-studded.
Yeah, you just mentioned the subject of one of my favorite NHL clips ever. After 22 years, Raymond Bourque. He's got a jersey hung up in Denver. He was there for like half a
cup
year.
Of coffee. Yeah. Oh, I know.
They hung his jersey up. I still think that's funny, but no. Thank you to Stephane Yelle for jumping on. Great storyteller. But I love when people come out west and stay out west. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, and he's so unassuming, right? He's just a quiet guy, and it was a very different interview because he's just so chill. Honestly, it's like he smoked a bone before the interview, and he didn't. But he's just so relaxed. He's like, "What's happening?" And he's like that in real life. It's hard to believe that he can elevate his game to where it needed to be the player that he was, right? Which was an absolute savage on the ice, a puck hound. Right? Shot blocking extraordinary. He's got the skinniest legs and he blocks shots like I have never seen before. Like I cannot imagine how
he's got the newspaper like stuffed under the shin pads to try and beef him up a little bit.
Oh yeah. It was like he was riding a chicken out there, but could he get it done, man? And almost 180 playoff games. Like that's literally, you should probably triple that. That's what one playoff game is probably like 3 or 4 regular season games. What you put into it, just how physical the game is, right? I mean, we've seen it in 4 nations and in the Olympics, all that stuff. So thank you, Stephane Yelle. Absolute stud, Fultz.
Love it. Another great interview, another great episode. Tyson, last reminder to follow on Instagram, Empty Tyson's Pockets. And yeah, we'll see everybody next week. We'll see everybody Thursday when Tyson, Biz, Heater, Tom Walsh, all at the Delta Center with Wit, Updog chiming in as well. That might go down as the all-time NashCast right there. I know you guys have had some good ones, but this might be the all-time.
Fultz, I don't know who's going to get a word in edgewise. I mean, it is going to be a scrap to see who gets to talk in that one. So, yeah, the Spittin' Chicklets boys, the Missing Curfew boys, I cannot wait. And my old partner, Bob Heathouse. So we're going to have a ton of fun. I can't wait for Heater to be in the locker room, seeing the guys, some faces from the past. I know he's so excited. And of course, Paul Bissonnette, I've said it a lot, but this is the biggest personality in our game today. He brings it. He's so good for the game, good for hockey, and the fans certainly love him. He is a popular guy. So I can't wait to see what Utah, how they bring him in, and how much fun we have. We are going to have a ton of fun, buddy.
He's the Charles Barkley of the NHL. Yes. That's all. This is a basketball state. It has been for a while. I'll say that. He's a Charles Barkley of the NHL. Nasher, we'll see you when you get in town here in a little bit, and we'll see everybody this week at the Delta Center.